The deep black of space stretched endlessly beyond the windows of the Aurora Explorer. Stars glimmered like distant diamonds, scattered across the vast darkness. For most of the crew, it was just another quiet night drifting through the outer regions of the galaxy. But for Captain Alaric Jensen, it felt different. Something in the air, an unshakable sense of unease, kept him alert. Alaric had spent years navigating space, from routine research missions to high-risk expeditions near uncharted planets. He had seen cosmic storms that could tear ships apart, rogue comets that threatened navigation, and strange phenomena that even the most experienced scientists couldn't explain. But tonight, the feeling gnawed at him in a way nothing else had. The hum of the ship's engines was steady, almost hypnotic. Crew members moved quietly through the corridors, finishing their routines, adjusting instruments, or simply staring out at the galaxy. On the bridge, Lieutenant Harlan, the communications officer, frowned at his console. "Captain, you might want to see this," he said, his voice cautious. Alaric walked over, leaning slightly as he examined the screen. A signal was blinking, an irregular pattern, distorted and fragmented, but undeniably intelligent. At first, it looked like random noise, the kind often caused by cosmic radiation or malfunctioning satellites. But as the ship's systems processed the data, it became clearer. Someone or something was trying to communicate. "Where is it coming from?" Alaric asked, his eyes narrowing. "Edge of the Corin sector, far beyond any known inhabited system," Harlan replied. "It's strange. Part of the message repeats the words warning. Humans. Murderers. But the rest is indecipherable." Alaric's stomach tightened. The words themselves carried a weight he couldn't ignore. Humans were explorers, sometimes reckless but murderers. It sounded like a warning not about them but about humanity itself. "Get the scientists here. I want a full analysis of this signal. Now," Alaric ordered. Within minutes, Dr. Ilara Nix arrived, her lab coat swaying as she walked briskly onto the bridge. Ilara was a brilliant astrophysicist, known for decoding complex cosmic phenomena, but even she looked unsettled. This is unlike anything we've seen before," she said, staring at the display. "It's not just a message. It's a pattern, a warning coded in a way that implies someone has been monitoring us for a long time." "Monitoring humans?" Alaric echoed, his voice low. Ilara nodded. "It's possible. The way this signal is structured suggests awareness. Someone or something knows exactly what humans have done. The use of the word murderers. It's a moral judgment, not just a fact." The bridge grew quiet. Even the hum of the engines seemed to fade as the crew absorbed the implications. To be watched, judged, and warned by an unknown civilization sent chills through every human aboard. "Can we respond?" Harlan asked. "Or is that risky?" Ilara hesitated. "We don't know who or what we're communicating with. Any response could provoke them, or it could be a chance to show we're capable of reason. But the signal's intensity is growing. It's like a beacon, guiding us somewhere." Alaric rubbed his forehead. He had faced countless emergencies, but this felt different. This was more than a test of skill or courage. It was a test of humanity itself. "Plot a course. We follow the signal, but carefully. Full shields, scanners on maximum. I don't want any surprises." As the Aurora Explorer changed trajectory, the crew began to prepare for what lay ahead. Conversations buzzed quietly in the corridors, speculation filling the air. Some wondered if it was a trap. Others feared that humanity had finally attracted the attention of a civilization powerful enough to punish them. In his quarters, Alaric stared at the starry void outside. He thought of Earth, his home planet bustling with life, oblivious to the eyes watching from light years away. Were humans really as destructive as the message suggested? The thought was disturbing. He remembered the wars, the conflicts, the environmental destruction. All the times humans had acted without thinking of consequences beyond their own world. A soft chime pulled him from his thoughts. It was Ilara, sending a direct message. "Captain, you need to see this. The signal isn't just repeating words, it's forming a map." Coordinates, perhaps, or a path. It's leading us to something. Alaric didn't hesitate. Assemble the senior officers. We'll convene on the bridge in 10 minutes. By the time the team gathered, the ship had aligned with the path suggested by the signal. On the main display, a cluster of glowing points appeared, forming a pattern unlike any natural star formation. The points pulsed in rhythm, almost as if they were alive. Alara tapped the screen, zooming in. These points, they're marking a location. A planet, maybe, surrounded by a massive energy field. Something is protecting it, and the signal. It's coming from there. The words hung in the air, heavy with uncertainty. The crew exchanged worried glances. An unknown planet protected by an energy field, sending warnings about humans. It sounded like a story from the oldest myths. Yet here it was, unfolding in real time. Harlan swallowed hard. "Do we land?" he asked cautiously. "Or try to communicate first?" Alaric's eyes narrowed. He weighed the risks. "We make contact carefully, shields up, no sudden moves. And remember, humans don't always inspire trust in other civilizations. We have to show them we mean no harm." The ship moved closer, its engines barely making a sound as it approached the edge of the planet's energy field. The lights on the bridge reflected in the crew's wide eyes. The air felt charged, electric, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Then the first anomaly appeared. The energy field shimmered, rippling like water disturbed by a stone. Sensors picked up movement, shapes forming within the glowing barrier. They weren't ships, but beings. Figures that shimmered, semi-transparent, their forms shifting and fluid. Alara gasped. "They're alive. Intelligent. Can they see us?" Harlan whispered. Alaric didn't answer immediately. He studied the shimmering figures. Unlike anything humans had ever encountered, these beings radiated a presence that was both beautiful and unsettling. He felt a strange pressure in his mind, a subtle urging to think carefully, to act with thought, not instinct. "Prepare the communication systems," Alaric said finally. "We speak cautiously. Every word matters." As the crew scrambled to set up translation protocols, Alara leaned toward the captain. "Captain, they know who we are already. The signal, it's not just a warning, it's a judgment. They've been observing humans for a long time." Alaric's jaw tightened. "Then it's up to us to prove we're more than what they fear. One wrong move, one act of aggression, and this could end very badly." The bridge was tense, every crew member aware of the stakes. They were no longer just explorers. They were representatives of humanity. The weight of their actions stretched across the void, reaching far beyond the ship, far beyond the galaxy they knew. The energy field shimmered again, and this time the figures moved closer almost deliberately. The wordless judgment in their presence was clear. Humans were being watched, observed, evaluated. Alaric took a deep breath. "We step carefully, we step together. And we show them. We can choose differently." For the first time on the mission, the crew felt the enormity of what lay ahead. The galaxy was no longer a silent void. It had eyes, and it had expectations, and humanity, with all its flaws, would have to face them. Outside, the stars continued to glitter, but the universe felt alive. Something ancient, intelligent, and powerful was waiting, and the Aurora Explorer was heading straight into its gaze. The Aurora Explorer hovered at the edge of the strange planet's energy field. Its shimmering glow pulsed softly like a heartbeat, and the crew felt the subtle vibration through the ship. Every instrument aboard the vessel was straining to understand the phenomenon, but none could fully explain it. Captain Alaric Jensen stood at the center of the bridge, staring at the shifting forms beyond the energy field. They were unlike anything humans had ever seen. Tall, semi-transparent figures, their shapes constantly shifting and glowing with colors that seemed alive. Their movements were slow but deliberate, as if each step carried thought and meaning. "They're intelligent," Dr. Ilara Nix said, her voice quiet but firm. "I can feel it. They're communicating without words. Their presence is like a language in itself. Lieutenant Harlan shifted uneasily. Communicating. Without speaking? How do we even respond? How do we show them we mean no harm? Alaric rubbed his temples. Carefully. Very carefully. We don't have a choice. This is first contact and we are representing every human alive. The shimmering beings seemed to notice the ship's movement. They responded, not with sound but with an overwhelming mental impression. A rush of images and feelings that the crew could barely process. There were flashes of stars, worlds, and civilizations intertwined with images of fire, war, and destruction. It was a warning but also a question. Who were these humans and could they be trusted? Ilara's eyes widened. They're showing us everything. Our history, our violence, our wars. They're judging us. Alaric's jaw tightened. He had known humans were capable of destruction, but seeing it reflected in the minds of another species was shocking. Then we have to prove we are more than that, he said. We have to show them restraint, intelligence, and compassion. Harlan nodded slowly, though the unease was clear on his face. And if they decide we can't be trusted? Alaric didn't answer immediately. He stared at the figures, feeling their gaze deep in his mind. Then we face the consequences. But we don't give up before we try. The communication system was brought online, and Ilara activated a translation protocol designed to interpret alien energy patterns. The console displayed a series of symbols and pulses. To the untrained eye, they were random, but the computer began to decode them into rough human language. The first message appeared. Humans. Why do you destroy what you do not understand? A hush fell over the bridge. It was direct, accusatory, and chilling. The crew glanced at one another. This was not a friendly greeting, it was a confrontation. Ilara took a deep breath. They know what we've done. They've observed our history. They're asking for explanation, for reason, or maybe for proof that we are capable of change. Alaric nodded. Prepare a response. Carefully. We acknowledge our mistakes, but we also show willingness to cooperate. The words were transmitted, simple and honest. We understand your concern. Humans have caused harm. We want to learn, to understand, and to act differently. There was a long pause. The figures shimmered and moved closer, their forms flowing around each other like liquid light. The crew could feel their collective attention, a mental weight pressing on their thoughts. Then a new message appeared. Proof is needed. Actions, not words. Violence will not be tolerated. Demonstrate restraint or leave. Ilara swallowed hard. They want to see our intentions, our ability to act without aggression. This isn't just about words, it's about behavior. Alaric looked at the crew. We follow their instructions. Every movement we make, every action must be cautious. One mistake could change everything. The Aurora Explorer approached the planet slowly, keeping a safe distance from the energy field. The beings mirrored their movements, gliding above the surface, creating patterns that were mesmerizing and intimidating at the same time. Suddenly, one of the figures extended what appeared to be an arm, or a limb of some kind, toward the ship. A beam of light connected with the vessel, scanning it in a way that made the crew feel exposed. Every system, every crew member, every intent seemed visible. Ilara frowned at her console. They're reading us. Not just the ship, but us. Our thoughts, our intentions. We can't hide anything. Harlan swallowed nervously. How do we even survive this kind of scrutiny? Alaric's voice was firm. By being human, but our best version of human. Honest, respectful, calm. The beam of light withdrew and the message appeared. Your hearts are conflicted. You are capable of fear, but also courage. We will observe. Approach carefully. Your actions will decide your place here. The crew exhaled, relief mixing with tension. They had passed the first test, but it was clear there were many more to come. Ilara studied the patterns of the figures. They're guiding us. The path is clear. They want us to follow them to the central structure on the planet. It's unlike anything we've seen, a floating complex held in place by some kind of energy field, larger than any human-made structure. Alaric nodded. We follow. Full shields, engines ready. And stay alert. We don't know what surprises lie ahead. The journey to the planet was tense. The ship moved slowly, every creak and vibration magnified in the anxious silence. Crew members whispered among themselves, sharing fears and questions, but no one dared act recklessly. When the Aurora Explorer reached the floating structure, the beings surrounded the ship, forming a protective barrier. They didn't attack. Instead, they seemed to guide, creating a safe passage into the center of their world. Alara's hands shook slightly as she recorded the readings. This energy, it's not just protection. It's awareness. It's alive in a way we can barely understand. The structure itself was magnificent. Towers of translucent light rose into the sky, connected by floating bridges of shimmering energy. The entire complex floated above the planet's surface, held by forces that defied human physics. Alaric felt a mixture of awe and apprehension. We've entered their domain. Remember, every move counts. One wrong gesture, and it could all end badly. The beings guided the ship to a landing platform. The energy field adjusted, allowing the Aurora Explorer to descend safely. Once on the platform, the crew prepared to leave the ship, unsure if they would be welcomed or attacked. Alara glanced at her team. We don't know if they will allow us to step outside. We must proceed slowly, showing respect. Any sudden action could be seen as aggression. Alaric nodded. Stay close. Follow my lead. And remember, we represent all of humanity. Our behavior here sets the tone for the galaxy's view of us. As they stepped onto the platform, the energy beneath their feet seemed to hum. The beings gathered around, their forms shifting, observing every motion. The mental impression they projected was strong but not hostile. It was curious, calculating, like a teacher watching students for the first time. Alara felt her heart race. It's like they're reading our intentions, not just our actions. They know if we are afraid or if we're being honest. Alaric drew in a deep breath. Then we continue honestly, step by step, word by word. We cannot afford lies, excuses, or impulsive behavior. The beings guided them toward the central chamber of the structure. Inside, the room was vast, filled with floating light and shapes that seemed to respond to their presence. The air, or the energy around them, felt alive, vibrating with intelligence. Then, without words, a thought entered their minds. Humans. Prove you are capable of restraint. Show that you can act without violence. Your choices here will decide whether you are a threat or an ally. Alaric felt the weight of the challenge pressing down on him. This is our test. Our first real test. And it's not just for us, it's for all of humanity. We have to show them we are more than what they fear. The crew exchanged glances. Fear was there, but so was determination. They had faced countless dangers in space, but nothing like this. Nothing that tested their morality, their self-control, and their ability to act as humans should, Alara whispered, almost to herself. This is bigger than any mission we've ever been on. We are standing in front of beings who see us for what we are, not what we want to be, and they want proof that we can be better. Alaric nodded. Then we show them, one step at a time, one decision at a time, and we stay true to the best of who we are. Outside, the shimmering figures waited, their eyes, or whatever human minds could interpret as eyes, fixed on the humans. The journey had only begun, but already the stakes were clear. The galaxy was watching and humanity was being judged. The central chamber of the alien structure seemed to breathe with light. The wall shimmered, constantly shifting in colors and patterns that humans could barely comprehend. Captain Alaric Jensen led his crew carefully, each step measured, knowing that a single misstep could jeopardize everything. The semi-transparent beings surrounded them, their forms moving fluidly, almost like ribbons of light, observing each human movement. Dr. Alara Nix was in awe. Her eyes scanned the walls, trying to understand the patterns. It's more than a building, she whispered. It's alive. It reacts to our presence, to our thoughts, to our intentions. Every step we take is being recorded, analyzed. Alaric nodded. Then we step wisely. This is not just exploration anymore. This is a test. The beings communicated again, not with sound, but through thought. Images and emotions flooded the minds of the humans. Scenes of past human actions, wars, betrayals, destruction, flashed through their minds. Then more subtle images appeared, acts of courage, compassion, and cooperation. It was clear that the aliens had studied humanity in detail, observing both the darkness and the light within them. A message entered their minds, simple but powerful. Humans. Prove you can act without violence. Choose restraint even when tested. Your actions will define your place among the stars. Harlan shivered. They're asking us to prove something we've never been asked before. To show that we can control ourselves even under pressure. Alaric took a deep breath. It's what we must do. Not just for ourselves, but for all of humanity. We've been reckless before, and this is our chance to show we can be better. Alara stepped forward, touching one of the glowing walls. Her fingers didn't meet solid matter but passed through a soft, warm energy. It responded instantly to her thoughts, shaping itself into patterns that reflected her intentions. "It's like a moral mirror," she said. "It senses what we feel, what we intend. We cannot hide anything." The crew moved deeper into the chamber. The air, or energy as it seemed, shifted around them. The beings floated alongside, guiding them toward a central platform. Here the challenge became clear. The platform was surrounded by floating objects, delicate spheres of light, each containing scenes from human history. Some were peaceful moments, acts of kindness and discovery. Others were violent, destructive, and cruel. Alaric understood immediately. They were being asked to choose which spheres to interact with, to demonstrate discernment, and to show that humans could value restraint and wisdom over violence and destruction. Ilara approached one of the violent spheres. It depicted a battle between humans and another species on a distant planet, showing destruction and suffering. Her hand hovered above it. If I interfere, if I act hastily, it could trigger a response. But if I choose carefully? She paused, closing her eyes. I must show restraint even when confronted with violence. She withdrew her hand, choosing not to touch the violent sphere. Instead, she interacted with a sphere showing humans rescuing stranded beings on a distant world. The energy responded immediately, expanding outward in a wave of soft light. The aliens observed, their forms pulsing gently. Alaric followed her lead, carefully selecting spheres that reflected cooperation, understanding, and compassion. Each choice was a conscious act, a declaration that humanity could act differently when faced with challenges. The mental pressure of the beings intensified. Images of fear, doubt, and anger flashed through their minds, tempting them to act impulsively. Harlan's hand shook as he reached for a sphere depicting conflict. It's so easy to react, he whispered. To respond with anger, with fear. But we can't. We have to resist. Alaric placed a steady hand on his shoulder. We resist because we must. This is bigger than us. Every decision we make here represents millions of lives on Earth. And beyond that, it represents the potential of humanity itself. Hours seemed to pass as the crew navigated the spheres. Each choice was met with immediate feedback. Some spheres reacted violently, as if testing their patience. Others responded with warmth, encouraging careful thought and collaboration. Finally, the beings formed a circle around the crew, their glowing forms radiating approval. A message entered their minds. You have begun to understand restraint. You have chosen wisely when faced with the temptation of aggression, but the test is ongoing. Your unity, your ability to act as one, will be judged next. Alaric exchanged glances with Ilara and Harlan. Unity would be harder to demonstrate than individual restraint. In a small team, disagreements were inevitable. Conflicts of opinion could lead to impulsive actions, which the aliens would surely notice. As if anticipating this, the chamber shifted. The platform beneath them became a series of separate sections, connected by narrow bridges of energy. Each crew member was on a different section, forced to navigate individually while maintaining focus on the task. Ilara moved first, carefully stepping along the energy bridge, sensing the weight of every decision. She reached a sphere depicting a natural disaster on Earth. Without hesitation, she interacted with it, showing the humans' efforts to save lives rather than exploit destruction. Harlan's section presented a more difficult challenge. A sphere showed humans retaliating violently against another species after being provoked. The impulse to act aggressively was almost overwhelming. He clenched his fists, feeling the tension in his body, but he stepped back, choosing restraint. The sphere glowed softly, acknowledging his decision. Alaric's section tested his leadership. A sphere showed a crew under attack, their ship in danger. The instinct to fight back was strong, yet he understood the greater lesson. He chose to act strategically, minimizing harm and preserving life, showing that humanity could balance self-preservation with moral responsibility. The chambers responded to their choices. The narrow bridges expanded, merging into a single platform once again. The beings formed a larger circle, their light pulsating rhythmically. The mental impression was clear: approval. The aliens were not only observing individual actions but the team's ability to act in harmony, maintaining restraint and focus despite personal impulses and fears. Ilara exhaled, her shoulders relaxing. We did it. We've passed the first real test. Alaric shook his head slightly. We've passed part of it. But restraint alone is not enough. They will push further. We must continue to show wisdom, empathy, and unity. The beings responded with a new set of images showing scenarios that would test the humans' morality further. One depicted an alien species in distress requiring immediate assistance. Another showed a tempting weapon of immense power, with the ability to solve problems violently but at great cost. Harlan swallowed. They're testing more than restraint now. They want to see judgment, the ability to choose wisely, even when the easy path is destructive. Ilara nodded. It's the essence of leadership and morality. Not just following rules, but understanding consequences. Alaric stepped forward. Then we proceed, carefully, together, as a team, and we prove that humans can rise above instinct, above fear, and above aggression. The next hour was grueling. Each member faced decisions that tested fear, anger, and impatience. Every time one of them hesitated, the energy of the chamber seemed to shift, as if the beings themselves were feeling the humans' uncertainty. Yet each time they chose wisely, the energy expanded, brightening, creating a rhythm of feedback that encouraged continued vigilance and thoughtful action. Finally, the chamber quieted. The beings hovered, forming a glowing halo around the humans. A message entered their minds, clear and precise. You have begun to understand restraint, judgment, and unity. You are not perfect, but you have demonstrated potential. The galaxy is watching, and your choices matter. Continue, and your path will be defined by wisdom and empathy, not violence. Alaric felt a mixture of relief and determination. We've taken the first step, he said quietly. But the journey isn't over. They will continue to test us, and we must remain vigilant. Ilara nodded. This is bigger than any mission, bigger than any danger we've faced. We are standing at the threshold of understanding a civilization far older and wiser than our own, and they are watching, learning if humanity can truly change. The crew returned to the ship, their minds buzzing with the intensity of the test. The chamber's energy seemed to linger within them, a reminder of the lesson they had just learned, that every choice, every act, even the smallest gesture, could define the future. As the Aurora Explorer prepared to leave the alien platform, Alaric looked out at the shimmering beings. We are being judged, he said softly. And if we succeed, it will not just be for us. It will be for every human alive. We have the chance to show the galaxy that we can be more than what they fear. The ship lifted gently from the platform, the beings guiding them safely away. The crew felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had passed the first test, but the challenges ahead promised even greater trials. The galaxy was watching, and humanity's actions had consequences far beyond their understanding. For the first time, they truly understood the weight of being human, not just in their own world, but among the stars. The Aurora Explorer drifted back into orbit above the shimmering alien planet, its engines humming softly. The crew had returned from the central chamber, exhausted but alive. They had passed the first moral test, proving restraint, judgment, and unity. Yet Captain Alaric Jensen knew the real challenge had only begun. In the quiet of the bridge, the crew went through their routine checks. Systems were scanned, logs updated, and readings carefully analyzed. The aliens had made it clear. Humans were being watched constantly. Every action mattered. Every small mistake could trigger a dangerous response. Alaric stood at the center, observing his crew. Dr. Alara Nix was still reviewing the data from the central chamber, her eyes scanning the readings with meticulous focus. Lieutenant Harlan and the other crew members moved through their tasks, but the tension was palpable. Each of them understood the fragile nature of their situation. Captain, Ilara said suddenly, her voice tight, there's something unusual in the systems. I'm not sure what it is yet, but it doesn't look natural. Alaric walked over, his eyes narrowing. Show me. On the main console, a series of small anomalies blinked in the ship's systems. Files had been altered. Certain controls were behaving strangely. Alaric's heart sank as he realized the implications. This isn't a glitch. Someone has tampered with the systems. Harlan frowned. Tampered? But who? Everyone on this ship has been careful. Ilara shook her head. I don't know. But the timing? Right after the test. It's almost as if someone wants to sabotage our progress with the aliens. Alaric took a deep breath. Sabotage in any situation was dangerous. But here, with beings observing them, it could be catastrophic. We need to find out who did this quietly and quickly. We cannot afford suspicion or panic among the crew. The investigation began immediately. Alaric questioned the crew individually, checking logs, access codes, and personal quarters. But there were no obvious signs. Whoever was responsible had been careful, precise, and deliberate. The crew's anxiety grew as the realization set in. Someone among them might be willing to risk humanity's survival for fear. Distrust or personal motives, Harlan spoke quietly to Ilara. I can't believe it. We've all been working together, trying to prove we can act responsibly, and now someone could ruin everything because of fear? Ilara nodded grimly. Fear can make people do strange things, especially when the stakes are this high. The aliens aren't just watching our actions, they're reading our intentions. Any sabotage could be fatal, not just for the crew but for all of Earth. Alaric gathered the senior crew in the control room. Listen carefully. Someone has tampered with the ship. We don't know who yet. This isn't just about technology. It's about trust and our ability to act as a unit. We cannot afford mistakes. The crew exchanged worried glances. Suspicion hung in the air like a thick fog. Every glance, every word carried an unspoken question. Could the person standing next to them be the traitor? Meanwhile, the ship's systems began to fail in small but significant ways. Navigation controls lagged, life support fluctuations appeared, and communication arrays acted unpredictably. Alaric realized they were facing a race against time. They needed to find the saboteur before a critical system failed and drew the attention, or wrath, of the aliens. Ilara worked tirelessly at the console, tracing anomalies, cross-checking data, and running simulations. It's subtle, she muttered. Almost surgical. Whoever did this knew exactly how to avoid detection while causing maximum disruption. Harlan ran diagnostics on the engines. It's like the sabotage is testing our limits. They're pushing us, seeing how we respond under pressure. Alaric's mind raced. He couldn't afford to accuse anyone prematurely. That could fracture the crew further and the aliens would notice. Instead, he decided to observe carefully, relying on subtle clues in behavior, timing, and system access logs. Hours passed in tense silence. The crew performed their duties with heightened awareness, knowing that any misstep could be interpreted as aggression or weakness by the alien observers. Finally, a small but telling pattern emerged. One crew member's access logs didn't match their reported movements. Alaric called the individual to the bridge. We need to talk, he said quietly, trying to remain calm. The crew member hesitated but complied. On the console, the altered logs glowed, clearly showing the discrepancy. I can explain, the crew member stammered. I was scared. I didn't mean to cause harm. I just didn't trust them. I thought if we didn't appear weak, we'd survive longer. Ilara's eyes were steady. Your fear endangered everyone. Not just the crew, but our chance to show the aliens that humans can act responsibly. Alaric's tone was firm but measured. We understand fear, but acting on it recklessly is worse than the threat itself. We are a team. Every action must consider the whole, not just personal survival. The crew member lowered their head, realizing the gravity of the situation. I didn't think... I thought I was helping. You were not helping, Alaric replied. But acknowledging your mistake is the first step toward making it right. You will assist Ilara in fixing all the systems you altered, and you will work openly under supervision to restore trust with the team. The aliens observed the resolution, their mental presence calm, but alert. Their message was clear. Humans falter, but how they recover is what matters. Correct your errors and proceed with unity. With the systems restored, the crew continued their preparations for the next phase of the alien test. The experience had left them shaken, but also stronger. They had seen how fear and mistrust could endanger not just themselves, but all of humanity. And they had learned that honesty, courage, and collaboration were essential to survival. As the Aurora Explorer prepared to descend closer to the planet, Alaric addressed his crew. We faced a real threat today, one that came from within our own ranks. And we overcame it. This is not the end of the challenges, but it is proof that we can rise above fear. We can act as humans should, responsibly and united. Ilara added, the aliens are watching not just for restraint, but for how we handle conflict and mistakes. Our ability to correct errors, to rebuild trust, is as important as any test we've faced so far. Harlan nodded, his earlier anxiety replaced by determination. Then we stay vigilant. We trust each other and we act carefully. One misstep could undo everything. but together we can succeed. The ship descended through the planet's energy field, moving carefully toward a new section of the alien structure. The shimmering figures guided them, but their presence was more intense now, as if evaluating not just actions but emotions. The crew could feel the weight of every decision, every thought pressing against their minds. Alaric reflected on the lessons of the sabotage. Fear and mistrust were dangerous, but so was overconfidence. Humanity had to find balance, courage tempered with caution, action guided by wisdom, and unity strengthened by honesty. As the Aurora Explorer approached a large landing platform, the aliens communicated a clear message. Your choices define you. Continue with wisdom, for the next stage will test not just restraint but your ability to act with empathy, foresight, and cooperation under pressure. The crew understood. The mission had become far more than a test of survival. It was a test of humanity itself. And they would need every ounce of courage, patience, and integrity to pass what lay ahead. Alaric looked at each member of his team. We've faced internal danger and we've overcome it. Now we face the next challenge. We must stay true to ourselves, to each other, and to what humanity can be. Our actions here will echo far beyond this planet, Alara nodded. And we must remember this is not just about passing a test. This is about learning. About showing that humans can grow, change, and act with responsibility. The aliens will see everything, our choices, our intentions, our unity. The platform beneath the ship glowed as they landed. The beings moved aside, allowing them to step onto the next stage of the alien structure. Every creak, every step, every glance was under scrutiny. The crew felt the weight of the galaxy's gaze upon them. Alaric took a deep breath. This is the moment where we show we are more than our instincts, more than our fears. We are humans capable of great harm, but also capable of greatness. We proceed carefully, together, and with purpose. And with that, the crew stepped forward into the unknown, ready to face the next stage of the challenge, knowing that their unity, courage, and wisdom would be tested like never before. The Aurora Explorer rested on the glowing platform, the energy of the alien structure humming softly beneath the crew's feet. The shimmering beings had moved aside, but their presence was still felt, a constant weight pressing gently on their minds. Every thought, every intention, every small action seemed magnified. It was no longer just about restraint or survival. The aliens were now testing the humans' ability to act with empathy, understanding, and wisdom. Captain Alaric Jensen looked over his crew. They had faced sabotage, fear, and moral tests already, yet the lessons weighed heavily on them. The eyes, or whatever the aliens used to observe, seemed to see not just actions but the emotions behind them. Courage, fear, honesty, dishonesty, all were visible. Dr. Alara Nix moved carefully among the crew, her eyes bright with determination. This is the real test, she whispered. They don't just want restraint. They want to see if we can act responsibly, with care for others even when it's difficult. They are testing our empathy and our understanding of consequences. Harlan shivered slightly. I thought restraint was hard. How do we show empathy to beings we barely understand? Alaric nodded. By listening, observing, and thinking carefully. Every choice must consider the effect on others. That includes our crew, the beings here, and even humanity as a whole. We have to act as our best selves. The beings guided the humans toward the central chamber of the platform, where the energy pulsed more strongly. It formed shapes that resembled doors, pathways, and bridges, constantly shifting and rearranging. As the crew moved, the aliens communicated, not with sound but through thoughts, images, and emotions. Humans felt it as a gentle pressure, a subtle urging to act with awareness, kindness, and intelligence. A new challenge appeared. The humans were faced with a holographic simulation, a scene that mirrored a real situation elsewhere in the galaxy. A peaceful species was in distress, threatened by environmental collapse, famine, and disease. The simulation allowed the humans to intervene, but the actions they chose would have consequences. They could act aggressively, use technology recklessly, or act carefully and cooperatively. Alara stepped forward first. She studied the simulation closely. We have to understand them, not just respond to the problem. Their needs, their fears, and their culture all matter. Any aggressive action could worsen the situation. She reached out and began to manipulate the simulation. Slowly, she coordinated resources, healing methods, and support systems. prioritizing safety and empathy over speed or efficiency. The simulation responded positively, showing the species thriving, their trust growing. Harlan followed, testing his own judgment. He could have used a powerful but destructive solution to solve the problem quickly. The temptation was strong and his instincts screamed for fast results. But he paused, choosing a slower, careful method that protected the vulnerable. The simulation shifted, showing the species adapting and learning, their survival ensured through guidance and care rather than force. Alaric observed his crew with pride. This is what they want to see. That humans can act wisely, not impulsively. That we can care, not just survive. The aliens responded, their light pulsing gently around the crew. The mental impression was clear. Approval, but also encouragement to continue growing. The humans were not perfect, but they were learning. And that mattered. Suddenly, a new element appeared in the simulation. Another human crew, representing a different faction, arrived with competing interests. They wanted to exploit the situation for their gain. The humans aboard the Aurora Explorer now had to navigate not just moral choices but also cooperation under pressure, diplomacy, and conflict resolution. Alaric's voice was steady. We must act together. Every choice must reflect collaboration, honesty, and integrity. If we fail to work as a team, we fail the test. The crew coordinated. Ilara communicated with the simulated faction, demonstrating understanding and compromise. Harlan ensured that resources were shared fairly, prioritizing the needs of the vulnerable over personal or short-term advantage. Every action was measured, deliberate, and reflective of humanity's potential for empathy and wisdom. The simulation responded. Instead of chaos, the factions worked together. The species in distress thrived, and the humans demonstrated that cooperation, respect, and foresight could resolve even the most complex problems. The aliens' observation intensified, as if they were analyzing the humans' emotional and moral growth in real time. Alaric felt a surge of pride. This is it, he said quietly. This is the proof they are looking for, that humans can learn from mistakes, act with care, and rise above fear and aggression. Hours passed as the tests continued. The aliens presented new scenarios, crises of ethics, resource management, and life or death choices. Each was more complex than the last, forcing the humans to think beyond themselves. They were challenged to balance logic with compassion, strength with humility, and courage with restraint. Mistakes happened. Harlan misjudged one scenario, nearly causing harm to the simulated species. Ilara adjusted quickly, mitigating the consequences and demonstrating how humans could correct errors responsibly. Alaric, too, faced a scenario where his instincts pushed toward risk, but he chose caution, ensuring safety for all. The aliens observed everything, their presence constant and silent. Their message was clear. They valued growth, accountability, and integrity. Humans were not expected to be perfect, but they were expected to strive toward understanding, empathy, and unity. Finally, the tests concluded. The chamber filled with a soft, radiant light, washing over the humans and making them feel calm yet aware. The beings communicated a final message. You have begun to understand. You have shown empathy, wisdom, and cooperation. You are not flawless, but your potential is clear. Continue on this path and your place among the stars will be secured. Ilara exhaled, relief mixing with awe. We did it. We've passed the stage that truly tests our humanity. Alaric nodded slowly, looking at his crew. Yes, but this is only part of the journey. We have shown them that we can act responsibly and with empathy. But the galaxy is vast, and the challenges ahead will test us in ways we cannot yet imagine. Harlan smiled faintly. It feels different. We were scared before, unsure of ourselves now. We've seen what we can achieve when we act with care and understanding. Alaric placed a hand on his shoulder. Exactly. That is what the aliens wanted us to see ourselves. That humanity, even with all its flaws, can choose the right path when it matters most. The crew returned to the Aurora Explorer, their hearts lighter yet filled with a deeper sense of responsibility. The ship lifted gently from the platform, guided once more by the shimmering beings. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, but now they seemed less cold and indifferent. The humans felt a new connection, not just to this alien civilization, but to the vast galaxy, where actions and intentions truly mattered. As the ship hovered above the planet, Alaric addressed the crew once more. We have passed a test of morality, empathy, and cooperation. But remember, this is not the end. The lessons we have learned here must guide every choice we make from now on. We are being watched not just for survival, but for the example we set as humans. Ilara added, "The aliens are teaching us something important. Our actions matter beyond ourselves. They shape perception, trust, and the potential for future interaction. We've seen the consequences of fear, of impulsive decisions, and of selfishness, and we've seen the power of unity, responsibility, and empathy." Harlan looked out the window at the alien planet, glowing softly below. "It's a lot to take in, but I feel hopeful. We've proven that we can rise above instinct and fear, that we can act as humans should, thoughtfully, compassionately, and wisely." Alaric's gaze swept across the crew. "And that hope is what will guide us forward. The galaxy is watching, and we have shown that humans are capable of growth, understanding, and empathy. That is the true measure of our worth." The Aurora Explorer moved away from the platform, leaving the shimmering beings behind. Their forms shimmered one last time, as if acknowledging the humans' progress, and then receded into the light. The crew felt a mix of relief, pride, and newfound responsibility. For the first time in their journey, they understood that the test was not just about surviving or following instructions. It was about proving that humanity could act as its best self, even under scrutiny and pressure. They had faced fear, sabotage, moral dilemmas, and complex ethical decisions, and they had learned that empathy, wisdom, and unity were the true strengths of humanity. Alaric leaned back, feeling the weight of the experience settle into resolve. "We are not perfect, but we have taken a step forward. And if we continue on this path, the galaxy will see the potential in humanity, not just its flaws, but its capacity for growth, understanding, and compassion." The crew quietly absorbed the lesson, knowing that the challenges ahead would be even greater, yet for the first time they felt ready to face them. They had seen what they could achieve together, and they understood the importance of their actions, not just for themselves, but for all of humanity. And as the Aurora Explorer drifted into the infinite expanse of space, the crew carried with them a sense of purpose, hope, and a renewed understanding of what it meant to be human among the stars. The Aurora Explorer hovered above the alien planet one last time. The energy of the floating structures shimmered below like a living network, constantly shifting and breathing. The crew had passed every test of restraint, empathy, and unity, but they could feel that the final trial was imminent. The alien's presence was stronger now, almost tangible, and it pressed gently against their minds. Every thought and intention was visible, every emotion amplified. Captain Alaric Jensen stood at the center of the bridge, gazing out at the vast energy structures below. The weight of responsibility was heavier than ever. "This is the final stage," he said quietly. "Everything we've learned, everything we've faced, fear, sabotage, moral tests, cooperation, it all comes together now. We have to prove not just that we can act responsibly, but that humanity is capable of change." Dr. Ilara Nix nodded. "This is the part where they want to see if we understand the consequences of our actions on a galactic scale. Not just for ourselves, but for every species, every world, every life that exists beyond Earth." Harlan shifted uneasily. "It's overwhelming to think about. One wrong choice could undo everything we've done. How do we even begin?" Alaric turned to him, steady and resolute. "We begin by remembering what we've already learned. Restraint, empathy, unity, responsibility. We act not out of fear, but out of understanding. And we act together." The aliens communicated once more, not through sound, but through a wave of images, emotions, and thoughts. The humans felt it in their minds. Visions of galaxies in chaos, species on the brink of extinction, planets scarred by war and destruction. Then among the devastation they saw images of hope, communities working together, species cooperating, life thriving against the odds. The message was clear. Humans would be judged not by potential, but by choices. A holographic projection appeared on the bridge, stretching across the room. It showed Earth distant and small, but surrounded by countless stars and planets. The projection highlighted conflicts, wars, and acts of destruction across human history, but also remarkable achievements, cooperation, and acts of selflessness. It was a reflection of humanity itself, flawed but capable of greatness. Alaric stepped forward. "This is the moment we've been preparing for. The aliens want to see if we can face our past, understand it, and choose a better path for the future." Ilara's voice was steady but filled with emotion. It's not just about us. It's about every human alive, every decision we've made as a species. They are asking us to prove that we can learn from mistakes, that we can rise above fear and violence and act with wisdom and care. Harlan swallowed. And if we fail? Alaric's gaze was firm. Then we fail for humanity, not just ourselves. But we won't fail. We've come too far, learned too much, and seen what we are capable of when we act responsibly. The projection changed. It now displayed a scenario across several star systems. Multiple civilizations were on the brink of conflict. Resources were scarce, tensions were high, and the potential for violence was everywhere. The aliens' challenge was clear. Humans had to intervene, but not through force. They had to show diplomacy, empathy, and wisdom on a scale far beyond anything they had faced before. Ilara examined the simulation carefully. We can't just react. We have to understand every species, every culture, every need. Any aggressive act will escalate the situation. We must choose guidance, cooperation, and diplomacy. Alaric nodded. We do it together. Every decision counts, and we act not for power, not for control, but for understanding and balance. The crew began to interact with the simulation. They coordinated resources, mediated disputes, and suggested solutions that respected the needs of every species involved. The decisions were complex and required constant adjustment. A small mistake could ripple across the systems, causing unintended harm. But they remained calm, methodical, and thoughtful. Harlan faced a difficult choice. One species demanded immediate aid, threatening violence if they were ignored. The easy solution was to meet their demands with overwhelming force, but that would endanger others and violate the principles the crew had learned. He took a deep breath, weighing the consequences, and chose a solution that prioritized negotiation, compromise, and mutual understanding. The aliens' observation intensified, almost as if testing the humans' judgment in real time. Ilara coordinated with distant civilizations, showing that humans could act not out of self-interest, but out of care for the greater good. The simulations responded positively. Conflicts de-escalated, cooperation increased, and life across the projected systems began to thrive. The aliens' presence grew stronger, their light pulsing rhythmically around the humans. A thought entered their minds, clear and powerful. You have learned restraint, empathy, and unity. You have shown wisdom and understanding. But do you truly accept responsibility for your species? Can you carry this knowledge beyond yourself? Alaric's heart pounded. We accept responsibility for humanity. We understand the consequences of our actions, and we will strive to act with wisdom, compassion, and care. Ilara added, we have learned that every choice matters, every action has consequences, and we will carry this understanding forward not just here but back to Earth and wherever humans may go. Harlan's voice was steady. We've seen the harm humans can cause, but we've also seen what we can achieve when we act as our best selves. We will continue to choose the right path, even when it's difficult. The aliens responded with a surge of energy, enveloping the ship in a warm glow. The projection of Earth and the star systems expanded, showing a galaxy full of potential yet fragile, waiting for beings capable of acting wisely. The mental impression was clear. They were acknowledging the humans' growth, their understanding, and their willingness to take responsibility. Then came the final message, entering their minds as both thought and emotion. Humans, you are capable of destruction but also of greatness. You have shown restraint, empathy, and wisdom. You have learned that violence is not the answer, and that understanding is the path to survival. Carry this knowledge and the galaxy will remember you not as destroyers but as learners, as stewards of life. Alaric felt a surge of relief and awe. We've done it. We've proven that humanity can choose the right path even under the watchful eyes of the galaxy. Ilara looked out at the stars, her eyes shining. And we've learned something even more important. That the future is not fixed. That we can rise above our fears, our mistakes, and our instincts and act with responsibility and care. Harlan smiled faintly. It's a lot to take in, but it's hopeful. For the first time, I feel like we're not just surviving. We're capable of thriving as humans, and maybe even making a difference in the universe. The Aurora Explorer lifted gently from the platform, the shimmering beings retreating into the light. Outside, the galaxy stretched endlessly, full of unknown worlds and potential. The crew felt a connection, not just to the alien civilization but to the responsibility that came with being human. Alaric addressed his crew one final time. We've faced fear, sabotage, moral tests, and galactic challenges. We've seen our weaknesses, our mistakes, but also our strengths. The lesson is clear. Humanity must act with care, understanding, and unity. Every choice matters. Every action carries weight beyond ourselves. We have the chance to define who we are, not just as individuals, but as a species. Ilara added, and the aliens have reminded us that we are being observed, not to punish, but to guide. Their warning is clear. Violence and recklessness will not be tolerated. Wisdom, empathy, and cooperation are the path forward. Harlan looked out the window one last time. We've learned that the galaxy is vast and watching, that we can be a force for good or for harm. But we've also seen what we can achieve when we act together, with understanding and care. The Aurora Explorer set course back toward Earth, the stars stretching before them like a river of light. The crew felt the weight of what they had experienced, but also a profound sense of purpose. Humanity had been warned, tested, and challenged, and it had responded with courage, empathy, and wisdom. As they left the alien planet behind, the mental echo of the final message remained in their minds. Humans don't negotiate with murderers, but they can learn to choose life, cooperation, and understanding over destruction. The galaxy remembers those who act wisely. Alaric leaned back in his chair, feeling the full weight of the journey settle into resolve. We've carried the warning, the lessons, and the knowledge. Now it's up to us to apply it wherever humanity goes. Ilara placed a hand on the console. And we will. We've seen the consequences of fear and violence, and we've learned the power of empathy and wisdom. Humanity can rise to meet its potential, but only if we choose the right path. Harlan smiled, his earlier anxiety replaced by determination. Then let's make sure we do. Not just for ourselves, but for everyone who comes after us. The galaxy is watching, and we won't disappoint. The Aurora Explorer drifted through the stars, a small but determined vessel carrying the lessons of a civilization tested by the galaxy itself. The crew knew that the path ahead would not be easy, but they were ready. They had faced fear, conflict, and moral challenges, and they had chosen responsibility, empathy, and wisdom. And so humanity, guided by the lessons of distant beings and the weight of their own choices, began the journey toward a future where